Okay, so check this out. I just found these two articles, both by CNN, and we're going to go through them because they have good charts. So journalists faced unprecedented hostility this year. Check out this. More journalists were killed, abused and subjected to violence in 2018 than in any other year on record, with those in the profession facing an unprecedented level of hostility, a new report has found. Murder, imprisonment, hostage-taking and enforced disappearances of journalists all increased compared to last year, and more than any other year. So it's like gang stalking, coming to the mainstream, and them actually reporting about it too, and making like a mainstream CNN outlet article. A total of 80 journalists were killed, including non-professional journalists and media workers. Imagine how many they don't know about, because they don't discuss gang stalking exactly, So it's like people like me from alternative media who are being attacked and hacked and stuff as well that are not discussed in this. So this is like mainstream and out in the open, 61% were murdered or deliberately targeted for their reporting, like targeted individuals as part of gang stalking, while 39% were killed while reporting. The report also found that 348 reporters were being detained and 60 were being held hostage. So this is over the globe in the last year. Yeah, high-profile murders and imprisonments, verbal attacks, etc., including on even President Trump. So this is a nice little chart here, or infographic. More than 2017, so that's just what we read. What's going on? Here we go. Wouldn't open. Alright, so this is according to RSF. What are they called up here? Reporters Without Borders. RSF here. So yeah, I wanted to skip that part and start here at the top of the page. The shocking murder of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi in October. I remember hearing about that. So basically, in the Saudi consulate, it's pretty interesting. The appalling, like how out in the open can you get? And I laugh because it's stupid that we allow this stuff. Like, the public is so dumb. The organisation said, RSF that would be, the appalling nature of the Saudi regime and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, blah blah blah. Yeah, look, the RSF report added that the high-profile killing of the Slovakian journalist Jan Kuciak and the arrest of Reuters journalists Kwe So and Wa Lone in Myanmar demonstrated how far some people will go to silence troublesome journalists. This is definitely info wars, isn't it? Like Alex Jones called it and calls himself still info wars. Pretty interesting. He's said that 10 years ago, and all this stuff's rising. More than 700 professional journalists have been killed in the last decade. So there's the years and all the deaths per year. So it's not just the deaths were the most this year, but the combined of what we saw up here. All of this, the detained, the held hostage, the missing, the killed, all of them together. So it was the most ever. So it's rising generally. Sort of the dealing with journalists, you know, in these sort of illegal, sort of crazy ways, and the war against truth. 4 journalists were murdered in a shooting in the Capital Gazette newspaper in Annapolis, Maryland in June, while 2 journalists were killed in May while covering hazardous weather in North Carolina. Afghanistan was the deadliest country, with 15 reporters killed, 10 of whom died in a series of attacks in Kabul in April, for which ISIS claimed responsibility. So there's the world chart. That's why I wanted to show this article, because it has all these infographics. 6 in the US, and now the US is actually joining. The US has joined the list of the world's deadliest countries for the first time in respect to journalist deaths. It's pretty interesting. So there you can see how much in each country. China continued to be the world's biggest jailer of journalists, with 60 currently detained in the country, according to the report. More than half of the world's jailed journalists are being held in just 5 countries. And there's that infographic. Last week, Time magazine named The Guardians a group of journalists who had been targeted for their work, as its Person of the Year. So if you don't know what gang stalking is and targeting of individuals, you need to look into that, because that's just more behind the scenes. Doesn't mean it's crazy, clearly going with the mainstream trends as well. So these Guardians were named Persons of the Year, including that Washington Post contributor who was killed at the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul in October. And those other 2 journalists, the ones from Reuters. And another one, the 4th Guardian, so to speak, what they've named them, is Maria Ressa, Chief Executive of the Philippine news website Rappler. She was indicted last month on tax evasion charges, which is part of a larger, wider crackdown on dissent by Philippine President for taking great risks in pursuit of greater truths, for the imperfect but essential quest for facts that are central to civil discourse, so on. Yeah, it became clear that the manipulation and abuse of truth is really the common thread in so many of this year's major stories. And I covered in a video, Organic Portal Society Dystopia, that I think it's globalfreedommovement.com. They had an alternative media article saying how many alternative media Facebook pages got taken down. So it's all over the place, this info war. Yeah. It's bittersweet and it's daunting. Look at the challenges we're facing. It's a tough time to be a journalist, that Philippine journalist chief said. Tough time to be a journalist, but what strengthens all of us is that there's probably no better time to be a journalist. No, I agree with this, because this is when we live our values and we live our mission. So yeah, I just wanted to show those charts. Pretty crazy, and it's showing that it's a mainstream thing, and, you know, gang stalking is the sort of underground element of this, and the targeting part, which is now even starting to be mentioned in the mainstream, as you can see, and that's why I wanted to bring these 2 articles up. There was another picture down here I wanted to show. Looks like it's moved on the Trump wall. just because it looked like such a Gestapo sort of picture. Let's see, maybe it's under this article, just to finish this video. Oh, come on. Okay, looks like the story's moved because I reloaded the pages, but I just wanted to show those two articles for those reasons stated before for the infographics and the ties to, you know, the back end, the underground part of all this info warring on alternative media and journalists alike, called gang stalking and targeting.